from the time I was 15 years old, I was always a nerd, always different. And I wrote my first computer program in 1979, before PCs were even a common thing or even on the horizon as far as a commercial venture. My math teacher knew that I was proficient in mathematics and not really very helpful in the classroom. He sat me down in a private room in my sophomore year of high school and told me, this is a PC, see if you can figure out how to make it work. During that year, I wrote 2 programs, and he told me if that was my curriculum for the year, write 2 computer programs, and he would give me an A for the class. He honored his word, but he opened the door to me, recognizing my differences just by happenstance, because there was no diagnosis for Asperger's or autism of my type in 1979. From then, I was able to translate those computers, and I was able to build infrastructure. Computers, if you've ever seen the movie War Games, I built one of the biggest BBS systems like War Games utilized back during that era in the 80s. And in building technologies for that, I was able to improve all telecommunications back during that time. Without any money, without any instruction, I just took it upon myself to improve the way telecommunications worked. When I confronted Southwestern Bell at the time, prior to AT&T, they asked me how I was able to measure the deficiencies in their telecommunications lines. And I told them I had written some metrics to measure how their packets were transmitted and measure the loss, latency, collision, jitter, and how to order their protocols in such a way to have greater efficiency. I did this simply because I had a BBS and we wanted to be able to play video games or games that were in text format faster and more efficiently. So while I was going through that patent process, an attorney who happened to have Asperger's as well heard me speak on my patents, but that attorney, who was a brilliant man with 9 degrees, owned a hospital system, and he picked me out of that courtroom and said, listen, can you come work with me? I understand the way you think, and I know you think like me. And he offered me a job in a hospital. I had no credentials and no background in healthcare, but healthcare predominantly runs on numbers. So in my process was, his hospitals were going broke. He was not good at running them day to day. They couldn't figure out what the problems were, so he turned me loose on it. I was able to go in and within 1 month, restructure the data, streamline it, organize it, and then all the missing money that the hospital had been looking for years showed up in one day, simply by optimizing the databases and mapping the data. That parlayed me into having an executive career, where I went on to become the IT director of the hospital system. And as I became educated in healthcare policy, public health policy, I went on to become an administrator at the hospital and a chief information officer at that hospital. And during that time, over those 8 years, I was able to understand intrinsically and systemically how healthcare operates, understanding how to map all the different diagnosis codes to procedure codes to determine clinical efficacy for physicians, to financial efficacy, to how well hospitals performed, what procedures were more optimal for treating patients, which one reduced the cost to the patient, which one reduced the cost to the hospital, and create greater margins for hospitals so we could care for more people.